Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of our past guests have included Richard Wildman, author, Hall of Fame inductee for keynotes and customer experience, Rocky Lalvani, the Profit Answer Man, and Jason P. Carroll of Aptiv Index. Today is a special episode in my Perspective series where I talk with innovators, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to gain new perspectives. Today, I'm speaking with Bennett Maxwell, founder of Dirty Dough Cookies. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I'm excited to introduce today's guest. Bennett Maxwell is an entrepreneur known for his innovative business strategies and dedication to reshaping the entrepreneurial landscape. As the visionary behind Dirty Dough Cookies, he has propelled the brand to national success with 65 plus stores opened and many more on the way. Beyond the cookie industry, Bennett's ventures span real estate and renewable energy, including co-founding and selling Switch to Solar. A sought-after speaker and media contributor, he launched the Deeper Than Dough podcast in 2023. Cool podcast, by the way, sharing insights on finding joy and purpose through entrepreneurship and beyond. Bennett, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Rich, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Me too, man. So for those who haven't heard this podcast before, I love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Bennett, let's understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
Good question. I have two customers. I have my primary customer is the franchisee because we're selling franchises. And then the secondary customer is the customer actually buying the cookies who's keeping those franchisees in business. So just really briefly on both, the franchisee, what we've built is a very simplified model that I mass produce all of the cookies here in Utah. We'll ship them out to you. They're pre-portioned, they're stuffed, they're multi-layered. They all cook for the same time, temperature, and fan speed. Your ovens are programmed. You just grab an oven, put it in grab a cookie, put it in the oven, press start. Operate out of 500 square feet, one employee, an oven, right? Like simplicity is really what we're going after. And I think it's the most simple food franchise, which as a result, then, lowers the barrier of entry to entrepreneurship. On the second end, like who's buying the customers, who the customer's actually buying, I think it's the experience of having a very unique product. We're the only ones that do like 3-layer cookies. So it's like a peanut butter cookie wrapped in a brownie dough with an injection of caramel, something like that.
Wow.
And then with that, there's the messaging of, life gets messy and that's okay. These cookies represent life and the fact that they're messy, they're dirty, they're not perfect, but that's okay. They're still meant to be enjoyed. So that messaging is kind of sprinkled throughout all of our stores. We care about your feelings. The inside matters most. Life gets messy and that's okay. Things like that, like on the packaging all over. So those are kind of my two customers and two ways that I try to serve each of them.
Man, that is awesome. So the cookies are imperfect, like us.
Yes.
But amazing and delicious when you take them in. And if I understood, you've kept things really, really simple. Like you're shipping cookie dough, but not the actual baked part. So it gets cooked in real time in front of the customer, right? But you're not making the store owner assemble all of it and do it the right way because that's a magic by itself. So when you started this, did you just start one store? Did you just start like, I'm going to start making cookies? Or were you thinking, I'm going to build franchises? What was your mindset going into this?
Yeah. So it was a buddy of mine that actually started in Arizona out of his apartment. And he posts on Facebook saying, hey, I'm selling out of cookies most nights. I need some money to invest in the storefront. So I gave him some money. I have no idea anything with food, franchising, never been in the space. So other than investing, it was kind of like adios, right? Hopefully it goes well. I was running my solar company and I wanted him to franchise it to me because I lived in San Diego. And rather than franchising it, he's like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to sell it. So it was one location. It had only been open for, less than a year. So at that time when I bought it and redid everything, the intent was to franchise it. That's how I saw the growth. I saw a lot of other companies doing something similar, and I'm like particularly Crumble in the space. I'm like, man, it seems like they became a national brand overnight. What are they doing, and what are they doing that I can't, improve upon just a little bit?
Yeah. So part of the reason I asked that question is because as entrepreneurs, I think we gravitate to what we look for. And the filter you wear and the questions you ask yourself take you down a path. And if you have an intention, you're most likely going to hit that intention because that's what you keep focused on. And a lot of business owners just like, oh, well, I can make cookies. I can start this up. I can open up a shop and do this business. And they don't think about the scaling of it. And when did you define the customer experience from the cookie standpoint? Was that already defined, or did you craft that more once you took it over?
Yeah, no, we had to completely recraft it because I'd recently exited. I bought Dirty Dough, and within a few months, I sold my solar company. And kind of when I went through something of like, man, I achieved this big goal. I wanted to be a millionaire and this and that before X age. And I achieved all that, and it felt amazing for a little bit. And then you just feel normal again. So I'm like, okay, it was very apparent, like within a week or two of that exit, that money wasn't the right goal for me. Like that wasn't where it's at. So, well, now I already have Dirty Dough. It's a cookie company. How do I kind of inject something more than money into it, right? So it's kind of picking what it is. And I think at the end of the day, we're all after a certain emotional state, right? That we want to feel a certain way. And what's preventing a lot of people from feeling that certain way, I think it's typically your expectations versus reality is equals, your emotional state. If your expectations are really high and reality is low, that distance is really what causes that, emotional distress, sadness, depression. So how do you bridge that gap? And that's what I try to do with the cookies. And it was really me just being in the store and a customer saying, hey, why is the name, why'd you guys name it Dirty Dough? And the employee made this up, I think. I mean, somebody made it up. She goes, it's called Dirty Dough because the dough is dirty because we put more mix-ins inside the cookie. I'm like, oh, I'm going all in on that. So it was like, how much chocolate chips are we using? Like, let's increase that by 50%. And then it got to the point that all of our cookies were stuffed or multi-layered. So I could bring in that messaging. I'm like, Dirty Dough means the dough is dirty because we know the inside matters most. So it doesn't matter about the outward appearances. So yeah, it was a lot of back and forth in a few months and a lot of fun and brainstorming and to kind of develop that because yeah, it was not developed when I purchased the business.
Man, so I love all this insight because a good friend of mine said, selling is the transaction, marketing is creating awareness, but branding is creating an emotional predisposition to what you offer, and that's what you're talking about, right? You're talking about the emotion, and I think so many companies go out and build a brand without realizing it. They don't know what emotion they're infusing into what they're doing. And I think, again, going back to that intention, when you're saying to yourself, how do I really connect with my customer? And it's about that emotion and what they feel. So how did you get the feedback from customers? How did you know you had the right message and the right brand?
On the messaging, I didn't. It was a lot of like, oh, do you want to kind of go this route? And it was, yeah, I want to go this route because I think it's important to me. I don't think there's anything more important in the world than your emotional well-being. And I think the number one thing to increase that is realizing life doesn't need to be perfect for you to enjoy it, right? Like it's the whole happiness is just right around the corner type of deal, right? Like getting rid of that. So it didn't matter if customers were going to receive it or not. This was more of a like, this is just what I want to do with my life. So when business kicks me in the teeth again, I have a reason to keep going, not like, oh, I can make a little bit more money. Branding in general, though, we did, we went through the full process and you get, I think we did elementary schools because that's our target demographic and going there because we redid the logos and all the colors and, how does this color make you feel versus this color? So there was a lot of that. And we had a marketing company to really dive into it. Before our color was like a bright orange because it was a college town. And now it's like a soft teal blue, knowing that our target demographic is women, not college students. It just happened to be that first location. So it was definitely good that we dove in a little bit more on the emotional side of the branding, colors, the logos, with our target demographic.
So I want to articulate back to you what you said, but I want you to validate this. So does that mean that the core purpose, the core message was for you?
Yeah. So I developed a mission statement after I sold the solar business, hired a business coach, got a therapist. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out what the hell I'm trying to do with my life,
Yeah.
And then I go back to my bit, and the mission statement was finding joy and fulfillment. Right. That's really what I wanted. The $1 million was just so
Yeah.
I could have more joy and fulfillment. Okay, cool. Now I got it. How do I do a business, a mission statement for my business? And the coach is like, you idiot. Your business is you. It's an extension of you. So, and then I threw in the word dirtiness. So it's to tie in with the business, but it's finding joy and fulfillment despite life's dirtiness, right? Don't wait to sell your solar company in order for you to be able to enjoy life. Yes, I developed it for me as a person, what fulfills me, and then the business had adapted it to help me achieve that.
So I feel the same way. And my purpose is a little bit different. And it took me years, by the way. I mean, it took me about 8 years into my business to figure this out. And I think I'm very typical of other entrepreneurs. I thought I was starting a business for one reason. And what I realized was at the core of who I am, I'm trying to empower others to be their best version of themselves. I love that. I did that as a financial advisor. But in my business, it morphs into I want to empower people to do their best work. Forms is nobody's best work. So
Yeah.
I want to enable you to have more time to do what you do best and therefore love what you do and get the fulfillment from it that you want. And I think having that kind of purpose is a foundation. It's a lightning rod, as I call it, to compare everything else to. So I think that's great that you figured that out, and then your business evolves, and obviously your customers are attracted to that, whether they realize it or not, right?
Yeah. No, it was kind of scary, like pushing out some other messaging. It has nothing to do with cookies,
Yeah,
it's
right.
zero anything to do with cookies. Like, what is the reaction? But at the end of the day, who cares what the reaction is? It's about my reaction, right? Like, I'm not doing this I mean, I'm doing it for the customers in a sense that because if I do that in exchange is going to make me feel better about myself. Like, that's a very egotistic lens of like, every action eventually comes back to something that we want for ourselves, right? It's not really selfless. But that is what I was just like, I'm going to do it anyway because business, anybody who's been in business, especially like a rapidly growing business, knows it's just hard. When you
Mm-hmm.
need $200,000 every month for a few years in a row, and if you don't raise it that month, you go bankrupt. Like that's stressful.
Yeah.
That's what I've been
Go
going
figure.
through. And it's, anyways, if you don't have that deeper purpose and you're just like, man, I can make a little bit more money if I just work a little bit harder. It's not worth it anymore.
Yeah. And truthfully, my company purpose is my own. I worked for employer after employer and didn't like it. Nobody would actually empower me to do my best work. And so that's why I wanted to have my own company. But you clued in on something really, really important for entrepreneurs and just brand in general. It's not about the product or service exactly. Really, isn't cookies just a metaphor for what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. It could have been done in any business.
Yeah.
Because it was a business that was existing that I purchased, right? And then it was now let's attach the branding and the messaging and then scale it.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a seasoned entrepreneur, and I want to ask you a different question about taking on this business and running it. Because I was actually having this conversation yesterday with another entrepreneur. So how do I phrase this? You chose to take on something for yourself, not knowing if it's going to work. I mean, people like the cookies, obviously, but
Mm.
taking this message to market about your mental well-being and your fulfillment and your joy, et cetera, and doing it through cookies, did you have a mindset of I will make this successful no matter what? Or was it a different mindset of like, I'm just going to push this out and see where it goes? How are you thinking about building this business at that point?
Yeah, no, I think it's, do your best. I don't know how it's going to go. It seems like because I just keep going, everything seems to work out with kind of whatever industry. It's more, if you just keep your head down and keep going, it works out. I think the healthier way to live is having less and less expectation. I mean, if you look at any anytime you've ever suffered in your entire life, it was because your expectations weren't met, right? Like I
Yeah.
expect it to not feel shitty right now. But if you expect it to feel shitty and you felt shitty, you're just like, okay, I could deal with this till it goes away. So I do think it is more like let's have the goal, let's have a direction, let's push as hard as we can. But like, it's not I'm going to do anything until to make this work, because there's so many things that are outside of the control, out of your control. And I think recognizing that, I don't know, this is more life philosophy, not business strategy.
But it all permeates. I mean, because how you think is how you think, and just because you're running a business is just a different kind of operation in your world. And really, truly, how you think about yourself is how you're going to drive your own business, in my view. So,
Yeah.
but I love what you're saying. The fewer expectations you have, the better. But at the same time, I mean, would you say you opened 65 stores in less than 2 years?
Yeah. We opened our first store summer 2022. And in this summer, we opened up we did some mobile franchises, like think food truck, food trailers. But we had 100 in 2 years. Sold 450 franchises and opened up 100 units in 2 years. So yeah, it was a lot. And then you're like, okay, if you're getting at like, okay, but you can't really achieve that unless you just go out. And it's like, I went all out, but I didn't. When I sold my solar company, I made a commitment. I was like, I'm not working more than 40 hours a week. And I've definitely kept that commitment. There's a week or two that you have to sprint, right? And then you're working a little bit more, and then you take a little bit of time off. Um, but it really was like, what's the point of working more? To go from whether I had 10 stores or 100 stores, how's that really going to change my life? Other than if I have 100 stores, I'm going to make up a story that gives me more money. And if I have more money, I can be with my family more, and that makes me happier. Or I could just have the 10 stores, don't spend all the time and sacrifice the time with my family today to then have time with them later. It's like I could just have both if I just work 40 hours a week. It's kind of crazy. I could have the time with them now and later, and you don't need millions of stores to do it. So it is looking back and like, man, that was a big, quick ride. Was it worth it? I don't know. It was fun.
No,
Going that quick.
I share that philosophy. I only work 35 to 40 hours a week, but for the first 12 years of this company, I worked 80-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And it was that lesson of those 80-hour weeks not pushing us forward, not getting where I wanted to be. And thankfully, the catalyst was having a son, my first child. He was born in 2015, and I had promised myself 35 hours a week max so I could spend time with him and have, live life. And I did that. It was hard, but I did that. And now I'm accustomed to it. And it works. You're totally right. You can have the balance and still run a business. Okay, there was a question I had for you. As you moved to franchise, how did you build the experience for the franchisees? And you talked about efficiency, and I think that's a huge key to this. But how did you say to yourself, how do I do this?
Whenever you need to go achieve something, it's what do I need to figure out? What do I need to learn in order to achieve this? And it's either I need to learn it or I need to go find somebody that already knows it. So I did the latter. I found somebody that already knew franchising, because I also knew not only was food a new industry, franchising was a new industry, and that has its own language. When you talk to people in franchising, you're like, right. What's an FDD? And they sign the FA win, and what are you talking about? But we also became a food manufacturing company, right? We were producing the food. And then we became a logistics company. We were going East Coast to West Coast. So there's all these verticals that I'm attacking. Can I learn them all? Yes. How long does it take? Too long. I have ADHD. Let's go. Let's find somebody else. So I started building an advisory board, and that was really, really key. Getting the owner of the largest property management franchisor in the world on the board. He's got the experience. He's been doing it forever. And I also started with the CEO. Right when we franchised, I was lucky enough to find someone. I was trying to get her as my advisor, and she's like, you need me to run this thing. I'm like, that's an option. I'll take it. She's been in franchising for 40 years, started a company called Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee, like a snack food space, pretty similar to Dirty Dough, grew it to 650 plus locations before exiting. So like franchise experience. Okay, now I got the team. Hey, Jill, what have you done for the last 40 years to provide a good franchise experience? Hey, Steve, what have you been doing? So it was recruiting the team and then really going off of their model. And within, a month or so before we had any franchises really open, because we were building it to so I could open it, someone with no experience, there was 107 lit checklists, and you click on this and here's the permit and you download it here and then you get it signed and you upload it here and then every single thing that you can ever do. So it was treating each franchisee as if they knew nothing. And that's how the simplicity was built as far as opening the store goes.
Wow. So you're very process oriented, or your team was at least. I don't know who you give the credit to. And this is the parable of all of our companies, right? In financial services, you grow by building more offices. And I've got a friend who's doing that. He's opening an office about every month or two. Now he's trying to get to 2 a month. And it comes down to these procedures and knowing how to do it and make it easy for the next person to run it. That is fantastic. What do you think is the future? Or what are you going to do with this company?
Yeah, I've sold it actually already. I sold it about 2 months ago to a company out of Chicago called Rebranded. They have 16 brands, I think. 7 of them are franchised. So I am now the director of sales for the 7 franchise brands that they're offering. That's my background before I got into all of this. It was a solar company, which was sales, right? And it was because I worked for somebody else doing door-to-door solar sales. So it's like, I like the sales. I know I'm good at it. That's where I like spending my time. So I could run a company and hire the operations out, or find a really good operator and then just do sales for him, which is what I'm trying to do right now, or what I am doing. The operator, the owner of the company that bought mine, is the former CEO of Jimmy John's. And there hasn't been another food restaurant in the last 30 years with more success. No food franchise in the world. So it's like, yeah, let me just sell for what you got going on, but for all of your brands.
Nice. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. You started this for your own joy and fulfillment from the dirtiness of life. Are you still getting that with this shift? I mean, you have new owners and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely. I mean, it's only been 2 months, but like, absolutely, I'm like, man, I'm loving, like, when I swipe my credit card, I'm like, this isn't this isn't directly coming from me every single second, and like, when you get like a business renewal, do you want to renew one of your 20 entities that you filed when you didn't know what you're doing? It's like, I don't know. Here's the legal counsel, here's their in-house attorney. They'll respond to you. It's like all of that is like, on a personal level, of the stress, joy and fulfillment is going up a lot. And I made the decision based off of, I mean, we sold 450 franchises. That's my number one priority, is like taking care of them. And it's been a rough food market the last few years. Like, anybody in any food category, ask them, nobody's making money, right?
Yeah.
So how do I increase their likelihood for success and decrease their likelihood for failure? Well, that's what I was doing. And that's what's bringing the joy and fulfillment. If I could get the former CEO of Jimmy John's with a big backing to come in, and make Dirty Dough the poster child of his portfolio, which is now what it is, because we're the fastest growing, like, that's going to give franchisee the most success. And at the end of the day, that is going to correlate to me, because I think that's kind of my biggest responsibility. Second, I guess, would be taking care of investors.
Okay, I'm going to ask an ignorant question because I've never done a franchise. I don't know. If you've sold 450, you've only opened 100 or something like that. What's the time frame to open a store? Is there a queue? Do they have to wait for something, or is it just up to them to find something?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to them to find something. So if you pick, Park City, Utah, right? Great area, no real estate. You can be looking at that for a year and there's just nothing opens, or you have something opens and you look into it, but Starbucks is at the end of the corner and they have a non-compete because they also sell cookies or something stupid like that, right?
Yeah.
But the bigger reason is, you buy 5 territories and I give you 5 years to develop them. So you develop 1 a year.
Okay.
So that's most people on development schedule. So again, even if you bought 3, it's 1 per year. But by the time you sign to open, yeah, 6 to 12 months is all it is.
Okay. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and forgive me if this is coming out of left field, because I didn't tell you I might ask this type of question, but I love to talk to people about artificial intelligence. Is AI working its way into your day, your business, the franchise system? How is it playing out for you guys?
So, man, in every freaking shade, I mean, every day I'm just like, holy crap, there's another tool. I mean, what we were talking right before, like, I'm recording videos for a CRM called Franchise Systems AI that takes takes prospects through the sales process through a series of videos and quizzes and things like. So it's not a salesperson, and you can now cast a much wider net, because I personally am not filtering. So that's all AI powered. All the scripts are AI powered. So now I have all these scripts, and I have to now record these videos, but I can't figure it out because I'm reading it and my eyes are going back and forth and on a teleprompter. So I briefly mentioned to you, I downloaded a software for free. AI, within a minute, it had my eyes looking straight forward the whole time. And I'm like, that's sweet. I'm still going to get the teleprompter, the El Gato. But like that is one little example. How I use it every day on my to-do list. There's chat GTP section and there's all the things I'm going to play with it. What, I have to redo the one pager over here. I have to redo the scripts over here. I have to make sure they reorganize this or, create these sales materials. So any and all texting that goes out, which is really what I've been good at in acquiring franchises, like what is the messaging and what order and how long, it's all chat GTP. Um, all my social media, I post twice a day, every day, pretty much. And then all of the comments are responded to and liked. And I'm commenting on 30 other people's posts every day. All of that is somebody out of the Philippines and good old chat GTP using the same thread that I train. Like these are the things I like and don't like. And then that's been our number one lead source. So
Nice.
those are all the surface level. AI does way more, but like first a sales guy that I'm just like, oh, how do I get it to help me in these things? I'm on different AIs every single day,
Yeah.
kind of going back and forth on scripts and strategies.
So I built a custom GPT to manage my to-do list.
Oh, awesome.
To-dos have been like so difficult. I have notepad files. I have things in my Outlook. I have Trello. I have all these different sources for to-do lists and I'd lose track of them all, or I would put them in some folder. And I finally got smart with chat. I'm like, hey, manage my to-do list. So I gave it a prompt of what to do. It categorizes it for me. It gives me due dates if I don't put one in automatically. It reminds me, and I can just log in and say, show me my list, mark these as done, whatever. I can add detailed notes. It's awesome. And it's so stupid trivial.
I mean, yes, that is awesome. Yeah, just combining everything. Emails is another thing that I write everything through emails, usually because I don't work from my computer. Like I'm on my computer working less than 10% of the time. It's my phone. So it's voice to text on chat GTP. This is the email. This is the background. This is the tone I want and who I'm speaking to. And it actually takes less time for me to tell it than if I were to write it. And then now, obviously, it writing it with the tonality, rather like, I like this, I don't like this. I'm trying to give off this tone and this emotion. And I'm trying to make sure, like I want to pridefully or humbly brag about this. And it does it, right? It captures that. Give me 5 different, anyways. But my writing has increased so much with ChatGPT. And then with the skill of like giving it the emotion that you want to portray rather than like, I like this wording, but rather than.
Yeah. I have recorded with the podcast, I've got recordings, but I've also done audio recordings of hours and hours of content for my AIs. And so then it learns my voice. And the other day I gave it a task and I said, you're going to have to help me respond to this email about this concept and information. And it wrote it in my voice. I mean, I just read it. I'm like, what do I have to edit? This is me. This is how I talk. It's perfect.
It is crazy. And then you're like, sweet, now I could duplicate myself for $5 an hour, as many Filipinos as I can hire.
Yeah, no doubt.
What I mean, like, this is sweet.
No doubt. Okay, look, we're getting towards the end. I do have another big question for you, but before we get there, what's the best way for people to find you?
BennettMaxwell.com, just my first and last name.com. There's links to my podcast, any of the crave-worthy brands, and then any social media, which I'm always on talking sales and entrepreneur, mental health, work-life balance, things like that.
Yeah. Like I said, good podcast to go listen to. Okay, so here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
That's a really good question. So I skipped over his name, John Richards. When I said I started to develop an advisory board, he was the first one. Anyways, took me out of the mindset of like, I just had a solar business. I only ran it for 18 months, but it was a 7-figure exit, feeling high to like, no, I took Yellow Pages online and we went public for $30 billion. Very different mindset on how to view things. Like as I was raising money, I'd never raised money. We raised 9 million in the last 2 years. And it was him kind of coaching me and guiding me. Everybody else was very much like, a percent could be worth $1 billion in 5 years and this and that, where you talk to somebody who's kind of been there, done that. And it's, hey, if this succeeds, whether it's worth 100 million or 200 million or 50 million and you own 40% or 80%, your lifestyle doesn't change, and he always brought me back to the lifestyle choices rather than the financial choices, which I think kept me sane. Anyways, lots of other advice, but yeah, John Richards definitely given me so much on my leadership.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I have to ask a slight follow-up question. Did you know him already? How did you get him on your advisory board?
I took a startup course from him. He does a 3-day startup course, and he taught me what an advisory board was. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just a governing board, right? Like on a C corp. And it's like, no, you can get these people, high-end people, for 0.5% to maybe 1.5% of a company that's worth nothing, and you subject them to a 2-year vesting period. So he's all teaching me this. I'm like, how do I get him? So and then I just went and had to sell him. And at the time I had one store, no really direction on like traction yet, just a vision. But I was able to kind of sell it to him. He put some stipulations that I had to follow. And then he was the one who brought on Steve Hart, who's the owner of the largest property management franchise in the nation, right? And then it kind of snowballed from there.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Okay, I could keep talking to you all day. This is awesome. But I do have to wrap it up. I want to give a big thank you to Bennett Maxwell, founder of Dirty Dough Cookies, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Bennett's website at dirtydoughcookies.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Bennett, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.